Andreas Krieg, he's the Associate Professor at the School of Security Studies at King's College London. He joins us from there. Andreas, good to speak to you. Now, this ceasefire, it actually takes effect in 3 days' time on Sunday. Does this window then allow for more strikes on Gaza Strip before it takes effect?
Absolutely. I think what we need to expect here is that Israel will exploit that window as much as it can to cause more destruction and to create a fait accompli before, all arms have to be laid down and we enter an effective pause of ceasefire, pause of firing. And so for the time being, I think the next 3 days will be immensely harsh for people in Gaza. A lot of people will die. And unfortunately, that also suggests to us that the war in itself is probably not over just because we have a first phase of what is essentially a prisoner or hostage deal.
So when we talk about Israel's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, there is talk of them withdrawing from the Philadelphia corridor, from populated areas in the first phase. Do you think we're likely to see a full withdrawal?
No, I think, look, the idea of having a phased sort of deal that goes from a prisoner / hostage exchange deal to one that will eventually, hopefully, potentially lead to some sort of overall ceasefire that is sustainable. That is a good idea. The problem, though, is phase one is phase one. We've been in a phase one in November 2023, and it collapsed. And now the Israelis have actually gotten quite a lot of concessions from the Hamas side. I mean, Qatar has worked very extensively on extracting quite immense concessions from Hamas over the last couple of months, particularly last summer, when Hamas agreed for Israel to remain within the Gaza Strip, even during the first phase of a quote-unquote ceasefire deal. And now we have an even further concession whereby the Israelis are not only remaining in the Gaza Strip, but their withdrawal will only be into areas that Israel, the IDF, considers to be a buffer zone. And the Netzarim corridor is not even touched upon. So phase one does not see the Israelis withdrawing from the Netzarim corridor, which is that corridor that divides the Gaza Strip into two. We will probably have 1 or 2 corridors going from north to south, where civilians, when they're unarmed, are allowed to go from southern Gaza into northern Gaza to return home. But after all, the fortified forward operating bases that Israel and the IDF has created all over the Gaza Strip, particularly in these corridors, they will remain. And the IDF can remain there in phase one. And from what I understand, even in phase two, the Israelis have kept the back door open, allowing them to remain in that corridor for the time being. And that's why I say there is a massive question mark over whether what is now hostage prisoner exchange deal will actually become a proper ceasefire deal.
Just in the last minute that we have with you, Andreas, can you give us an idea of how militarily strong Hamas is at this stage?
It's hard to say. Like the previous speaker said, I think Hamas has been severely degraded. The fact that they're no longer operating as an organization, but isolated almost little nodes in a wider network, without a really strong centralized leadership, suggests that both militarily and politically Hamas is severely weakened. But it's true. I mean, Hamas, all they need to do is show that they survived for this to be a victory. And that's something that particularly the far-right ideologues in the Netanyahu government want to avoid. That's why they want to continue fighting. But there has to be a realization that neither the idea of resistance, nor the political side of the story, nor the military movement of Hamas will be defeated by military force. The only way out, and we've always said this for at least a year now or longer, the only way Hamas can be defeated is through diplomacy and a diplomatic deal and a strategic solution to the Palestinian problem.
Andreas Krieg, many thanks indeed for joining us there. We will have to leave it because we will have more on our breaking news coverage of the ceasefire deal.